Welcome back to the War Room for another dispatch of World in Flames 5th edition combined with Days of Decision 3 with duct tape and chewing gum. We are following what's happening on this table in this fictional version of the 1930s, turn by turn. And it depends on how long the term is, of course. 1936 went by. We have completed it. And it was a short summary, shall we do? I think. The world is not seeing any wars at the moment. The war in East Africa is over. Italy conquered East Africa. In 1936, Germany returned to the Rhineland without resistance. Treaties remained intact. New treaties have not been created to any large extent. Spain has been a quiet battlefield of influence and espionage with foreign powers maneuvering behind the scenes, and a government crisis leading to a switch of stance in as far as the government philosophy goes, from a sort of democratic socialist agenda to a more neutral one, after some interference perhaps from other powers. But yeah, we are about to start 1937. It is January and February 1937. And the first thing that we will look at will, of course, be the bets, which I have prepared before the stream, which I always do. So let's have a look at how the various major powers have been bidding and betting. We will have Germany betting 4 of its 5 bid points. Japan is doing 5, which is the biggest bet we've seen from Japan in a while. The US is betting a single point. Russia bets 2, France 3, Italy 2, Commonwealth and China 1 each. The result of this will be a bit of a switcheroo on the initiative scale here for politics. We will have Germany actually first. Germany and Japan will both have 7, but because Germany has a higher political effectiveness, it will go first. And then we'll have Japan. And then we shall have the US, which bets a single point, has a +4 from last turn, so it gets 5. Russia is betting 2 points, plus its 2 gives it 4. Yeah. And that is actually going to put it... Wait a minute. Did I... Wait, it had a +3 before. Yes, of course. So now it's... I'm not confused, and I don't need coffee, you do. So they will have 5 points, and because the Soviets and the Americans have the same political efficiency, the US will go before the Soviets. France bets 3 points for a total of 4, will sneak up before Italy. And then we have the Commonwealth, and so Italy is betting 2 points, puts it to a 4 in total. Because France went before Italy last turn, it wins the initiative this turn as well. And then we will have Commonwealth and China bringing up the rear. All countries are betting at least 1 bid point, which means that they have a chance to bid something, play one of their political options. We will see how many of these countries will actually get to do something. All right, Germany starts, and Germany will play double all production because it's 1937. It's going to cost it 10 Reichsmarks, and we are actually going to see some US entry, which is the first time in a long time that we will see that. So I'm going to have to go into my charts here. So anyway, let's have a look here. Germany, 10 points. That costs Germany 10, which is a lot of money, no doubt. Germany currently has 9 money. Germany did bet... Let's see, it bet 4 bid points. It had 5, so it's down to 1 left. 10 money goes for the gear up. Production multiple goes up to 2. This means that Germany can now build for... Each factory can now use 2 resources to build. So you get, if you have 2 resources in a factory, you get 2 money. It has then a 12 production per turn. Germany needs more resources. And there will be some reactions because of this, naturally, because it's increased military spending here. The headlines will be that Germany accelerates rearmament since World War I, or the Great War, because we haven't had a World War II yet. So Germany accelerates rearmament for the first time since the Great War. The German government has announced a sweeping expansion of military production, framing the move as a necessary response to instability abroad and uncertainty closer to home. Factories are being retooled, contracts expanded, and planning horizons extended well beyond previous limits. Officials insist the program is defensive in nature, yet few doubt that Germany is now committing itself to a sustained build-up rather than a temporary measure. For Berlin, restraint has given way to preparation. Alright, we're going to have actually minor country effects. Plus to Austria, because apparently the Austrian people/government likes this. So we're putting +2 influence in Austria. We are going to have... Frankly, it's very rare to activate Austria in this game because Austria is going to end up being anyway sooner or later. We'll have +2 as well in the Baltic states. Don't have any troops, they don't have any factories, they don't have any resources in this game, so it's mostly formal to put the points there, I guess. -3 to Belgium. For some reason, the Belgian government does not like this much. Could it be because of what happened in 1914 when the Germans walked through Germany on their way to Paris? Yes, probably. Yeah, that seems like a likely bet. Other reactions. Slovakia, -2. It has to be a mystery why Czechoslovakia takes exception to this. The Czechoslovakian President Beneš, or is he Prime Minister? I don't remember the Czechoslovakian system in this day and age. Denmark, -1. But I'm sure he is going to hold a speech to the Czech and Slovak peoples saying words to the effect of, we're not comfortable with this development. Okay, where we go? There we are. Denmark. Finland, +1. No. Clone it is what we wanted to do. Boop, and flip. Finland, of course, is a country that Germany definitely wants to woo over time. Hungary and Ireland is also a +1. Mexico doesn't exist in 5th edition, so we'll ignore it. Hungary, +1. Which was the other one? Ireland. Of course. Ireland, historically, of course, pro-German because it's a counterweight to Commonwealth influences. Netherlands, -1. Norway, Poland, and Sweden, -1. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 countries. Sweden, Poland. Was it Norway? I think it was Norway. Yeah, it was Norway. And then Turkey, a +1. Turkey, of course, being very key minor power because it has a substantial military. So if that could be allied in some fashion, that would be excellent. What minor country do we want to activate as Germany right now? I think we're going to activate Sweden, mostly because we want to get rid of the -1. So Sweden will not move out of the neutral zone at all. And with that... Oh, we had the US entry as well. Let's not forget. US entry is, in fact, a lot, isn't it? It's an 11, in fact. I am fixing my sheet here so I can see what's going on. Base US entry, the first major US entry effect in this game, we'll see the German base entry go up to 11. 15, actually. Go up by 11. Which means that base US entry now, the effective US entry now is a 15. To Italy is an 8, 7.5 rounded up. And Japan is also an 8. And there are 2 versions in final edition of World in Flames. It's Prime Minister, is it? Okay, thank you, Commando. So Prime Minister Benesh. Was there Prime Minister in the 30s too? Yeah, but I'll take your word for it. There are 2 versions to play US entry in Collector's Edition, and when playing with World in Flames Days of Decision 3, I think this one is the easier one to go with. Basically, US entry has to hit 81 for the United States to be able to declare war on some other major power. And so we're not using the chits in this playthrough, because the chits are very useful when you're playing against human opponents and you want to make the Axis not know how much US entry there is. But I'm playing this as a solo run, so kind of pointless in a sense. Let's see if the turn ends here. We've had 2 very short political turns previously. We had one that ended after just 2 powers acted in September, October, and we had only 1 major power acting last turn. Who knows what this turn will offer? Well, a 10 means that the turn is definitely not over. If it were either 1 or a 2, it would have been over. But now Japan gets to act. And Japan had, in fact, also bet large. 5 points, in fact. So we're going to remove 5 points from Japan's bid point pool. 2 left. And Japan, much like Germany, can, in fact, in 1937, gear up, which is exactly what they're going to do. Boom, production multiple 2. We have 7 factories, 9 resources, which means it's not going to be 2 more, because they're sending 1 money over to the US. So that's going to be 8 production per turn now. Not a huge increase by any standard, but an increase nonetheless. Of course, much like in the case of Germany, this costs money. In fact, it costs 9 money to gear up the military spending, and Japan was at 3, so I don't know why it jumps around like that sometimes, but here we go, the screen. -6 money for Japan right now. And we have the headlines right here. Economic boom. Economy to be reorganized. Exports up. Japan on war footing. Getting to a war footing. And we have commentaries. Tokyo has formally authorized a major increase in military production, signaling that Japan's leadership no longer views rearmament as a short-term contingency. The decision reflects mounting pressures in East Asia and a growing belief within the Japanese government that future conflict will demand industrial depth as much as battlefield skill. Naval yards and armament plants are expected to see immediate expansion. Japan is no longer preparing for possibilities, it is preparing for endurance. Alright, none of these countries are a factor in 5th edition. Netherlands is, though. So, Netherlands will have a -2 to Japan. Doesn't happen often that you see Japanese influence markers in the Netherlands, or in Europe in general, but here it is, -2. What else do we have? Japan, boom. Netherlands, Portugal -2, Siam +2. Okay, those are the only countries that really matter in World in Flames 5th edition. So Portugal -2, but Siam is a +2, and I think Japan is going to activate. No, it can't activate Siam because Siam, I think, is in the middle. Isn't it neutral still? You need like a +1 more to make it move. Siam is, yes, indeed, it's right square. I've put all the neutral countries, the ones that are in this zone here. I still have Spain out here because there's been so much jostling over Spain. But yeah, they're all, I guess I could put the Spanish marker here as well. They all need a ±3 to exit this particular spot here. So for now, there is not going to be anyone moving there. But Japan does want to activate some country, doesn't it? And I believe Japan can activate the Netherlands. Yes, it can. And the Netherlands is where? It is... Look at that. It's a neutral place. Since there is a -2 to Japan and a -1 to Germany, I think that's a pretty prudent activation. That way, it's either that or Portugal, really. Portugal would not move? Yeah, it would move. Because Portugal is here, so it would move. So that's not a good idea. Let's activate the Netherlands before it actually can be activated by someone else and move away. Boom. The Netherlands, some Japanese diplomacy done with the Netherlands to smooth over sore feelings and make sure that the Dutch government doesn't take any action in response to the Japanese militarization, shall we say. US entry, of course. It's 1937. It's a US entry of 13. This is the first time Japan does anything to make US Congress aware of it. And that is actually quite the significant bump. We're going to have... So the Japanese base entry will go up to 13. And that means a change here. There's a formula which basically adds all the Axis powers and then subtracts the communist and democratic powers. And so the more active the Soviets and the democracies are in terms of politics, the later the US will join, and the more aggressive the Axis are, the quicker the US will enter. So now we have a US entry effective of 22 to the US, to Japan, and Germany, to Germany, which is a quarter of the way to declare war already. But that's going to go down, I predict, because the other powers will, in fact, like the democracies, will do things to offset this eventually. But yeah, 22 to Germany and 21 to Japan. In US Congress, there is a lot of muttering about these warlike stances from the two. One is a downright Nazi government, and the other is a highly autocratic monarchist government, a paternal monarchist at this moment. Tojo has not taken power in Tokyo yet. All right, let's see if the political turn ends here. We have already 2 options played, and if I roll a 3 or lower, it will end. I did not. That was another 10. The United States gets to take an action, and the United States of America will not be left behind. It will also increase its production. That's the 3rd gear up in a row, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have the US bid. How much did we bid here? Only a single point, actually. So the US bid, its bid point, it's down to 0. And so 17 factories, half. We're going from 1/8 to 1/4 production. So it's going to be 4.25. I think that's a 4 in production, which is now 5 then, because they get 1 money from Japan. And so the first gear up is like ludicrously... American gear ups are expensive, and it takes a while for the US to recuperate the losses. Double our production, we will not remain weak. And 12 money is what that costs. So we're going to go from 9 to -3. And there is a US entry cost to this, of course. So here we go. 14. Told you there would be offsets, didn't I? So in response to the German and Japanese rearmament activities, the US follows suit. And because it does, that's a 14 US entry. And that will offset what the Axis powers have done. So the US entry is dumped down to an 8 for Germany, 0 for Italy. Effective. And a 6.5, so that's a 7 to Japan. and the USSR is at a -14 now. So I guess the congressional response to what Germany and Japan has done is a swift increase in production, and that will satisfy Congress that the US is in fact prepared for what's to come. Washington begins cautious rearmament, reads the headlines. The United States has approved a measure expanding its military production, marking a significant shift from an earlier emphasis on restraint and neutrality. Officials stressed that the move is precautionary rather than provocative, intended to ensure readiness should international conditions deteriorate further. While public rhetoric remains firmly peaceful, the machinery of defense is quietly being set in motion. America is not entering the world's conflicts, but it is no longer ignoring them. So let's see what effects this will have on minor countries. Denmark has a -2 to the US. How often do we... Now the US has played 2 options in 2 turns, which is frankly a lot for the US in this game. And in the 30s, the US becomes much more active later on. Do Ireland a +2. The bonds between the United States and Ireland have always been strong. There is a strong Irish minority in the US that will organize and affect outcomes in Congress. Netherlands a -1. Apparently not a strong Dutch minority, though. It's like extra bonus for the Axis to have activated Netherlands. Persia a +1. I'm thinking there is something here about like oil. When everybody's gearing up, Persia goes, oh, I can sell more oil to people. But that doesn't explain why Persia didn't react to the others. Portugal a -1. Again, since Portugal is in fact allied with the Commonwealth, it's going to take 3 points to move it. Siam +1. Not sure why Siam reacts positively to the American expansion here, but it did. So what country should the US activate? Unlike after World War II, when the US was the given hegemon in the world next to the Soviet Union, there is a limit to what US diplomacy can do in the 1930s because of its isolationism. So there is only so many countries it can activate. I don't know. Let's have a look, shall we? Denmark might be a good idea to activate, but Denmark will also be... There's no resources here, there's no factory, and it's going to be run over by the Germans very quickly. So there isn't a whole lot of point to doing that. Could activate the Baltic states just to... No, it can't. I don't think that Germany can activate that one. Don't want to activate Portugal. Ireland is neutral and will remain so for now, so not much point. Could activate Turkey, maybe. Can we activate Turkey with the US? Nope. Netherlands, Ireland, Iraq, Denmark, Portugal, Siam, Spain, Persia. Not Turkey. Okay. Portugal. No point in activating Portugal, because Portugal... Actually, there is a point in activating Portugal. Look at here. Okay, let's go. There is a point in activating Portugal. Let's have a look, shall we? Portugal is here. And it's allied with the Commonwealth. A -1 to the US won't do anything, because it would take 3 points to move away, so that's burned off. But a -2 to Japan will actually move Portugal. 1, 2... It's 3 steps away now. That's also 3 steps, so it will actually end up in the same hex as Romania. Like that. Which is a hex towards the democracies, which is good for the democracies, so go figure. Okay, now we have... Let's see if the turn will continue. We have a longer political turn this time, don't we? And I rolled a 5, which means that the political turn actually does continue. And the Soviet Union will go next. The Soviet Union cannot gear up this turn, but it can do other things and will do other things. Warlords will abduct Chiang Kai-shek. Okay, or Jiang Jieshi, as his name is in Mandarin French. Chinese, Mandarin Frenchy. Mandarin Chinese. 2 bid points for the USSR. Very cheap for this. I think it costs 2 money to play the option. This option means... Yep. In real world, this happened in December 1936, so it's just a little bit behind the actual time. Warlords abduct Chiang. Signs agreement with Zhou Enlai. Anti-communist campaign halted. This means that the Chinese nationalist and communist forces may not attack each other while at war with a major power. But there is no war between them right now, so it's fine. This can only be played if the Russian initiative is half that of China's, which is it is in fact. So let's see now. We are going to have some reactions to this. 10 US entry in the Soviet Union. First time that the Soviet Union does anything so far in this game. And yes, I know most players will play the Purge first, but I did this one instead. The Purge can come. It will come. And again, I don't know why the board jumps around like that sometimes when I use my mouse like this. Okay, so now we're going to have 10 US entry to the USSR in base, which lowers the US entry to a 3 effective to Germany, a -5 to Italy, a 2 to Japan, and a -4 to the Soviet Union. So, yeah, in a stunning development, Soviet authorities have confirmed that Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jieshi, the leader of the Chinese nationalist government, was taken into custody by communist, and actually it was the nationalist generals themselves who took him into custody under circumstances that remain deliberately opaque. The Kremlin describes the action as a necessary intervention to stabilize China's internal situation and ensure continued resistance against external threats, which means not against the communists. International observers, however, see the move as a more dramatic assertion of Soviet influence in East Asia. For Moscow, indirect pressure has given way to decisive action. Let's see what the minor countries say about this. See, we're getting some markers out there. The Netherlands as a +1 to the Soviets. Because the Soviets could not gear up this turn anyway, so that's how they spent their... The French really want to get a chance to do something as well. We'll see if they have that fortune. Do Portugal a -1? Siam a -1, Spain a +1, and Turkey a -1. Okay. So, Siam a -1, Turkey a +1, we said. Or was it Spain? We said Siam -1, Spain +1, Turkey -1. Spain +1. No, not German. Ah, there. That's what we wanted. There we go. Okay. The Soviet Union has to activate a minor country. And nobody likes the Soviet Union. We can activate Finland just to remove the +1 and make sure that Finland doesn't get any closer to the Axis, because that would not be good for the Soviets. Finland, of course, is smack dab in the middle here. Needs a +3 or -3 to move out of there. And that is the Soviet action. Let's see if the turn ends. I roll a 9. See, this is where the randomizer balances itself after the two very short political turns we had a moment ago. France gets to act, and France will, it's 1937, it will gear up. Defense up. And jumped around again. Here we go. Defense up. 12 billion francs. 3 tank divisions, 100 US aircraft, Maginot upgrade, 3-year conscription bill, etc., etc. French production multiple increases by 1. Pays 8 francs to do that. There are no euros in this day and age. That's going to be -4. France bid all of its 3 points, I believe. Yes, it did. All in. France is down to 0 bid points. And production multiple goes up to a 1, which means that we now have 7 factories, 11 resources. Production goes up to 7, which is a considerable upgrade compared to the others. And the headlines read, there's more drama now, isn't there? France expands its war industries. France has authorized a significant expansion of military production, acknowledging openly that existing defenses may no longer be sufficient in an increasingly volatile Europe, which is definitely a snide towards the Germans. Government statements emphasize deterrence and preparedness, while privately admitting that delays in rearmament have left the country vulnerable. The decision marks a clear turn away from hesitation towards sustained commitment. Paris is choosing readiness over reassurance. And we will see how the world reacts to that, won't we? Okay, Austria -1. There's going to be a lot of reactions to France now. Belgium a -2. Belgium is now squeezed between 2 major powers that are both increasing their military production. It's almost like an echo from 1914. Czechoslovakia +2. Czechoslovakia is allied with France, and I think wants to see French reactions to the German gear up, so that is exactly what we got. Hungary -1. Hungary being much more in tune with what the Germans are doing, of course. Iraq a +1. Netherlands a -2. Much like Belgium, the lower countries react poorly to this. Poland a +2. Poland being allied with France. And Germany, interestingly enough. But that means that you can hardly move Poland. It needs 3 points to move either way. Romania +1. Will we get a little entente eventually? Let's see. Siam a -2. That probably has something to do with the fact that France has French Indochina, and Siam doesn't like being neighbors to a colonial power like that. What else do we have? Spain -1. Spanish government is starting to get some impulses from various countries here, but it needs a 3 points to get out of there. Sweden -1, Turkey -1, Yugoslavia +1. So we will have Turkey, Sweden, and then I said Yugoslavia is a +1. There we are. Yugoslavia also being allied with France. And this is another gear up, so we will have another 10 US entry coming in. It's the first time France does anything to make US Congress take note. As we can tell here from the US entry pool, it's going to be a 10. And that, yet again, changes the arithmetic here, the situation. With Germany and France and Japan and the US all gearing up. Congress is now apparently really dismissive of taking any action in Europe because we are seeing a -3 to Japan, a -2 to Germany, and a -10 to Italy effective US entry. It's going to take a while before US entry gets up to any type of action against the Axis because France is taking a firm stand. Alright, France has to activate a minor country here. It does have a coup cell in Spain, but that's not going to affect anything right now. Belgium seems like a good place to activate, honestly, because it has -3 to Germany. And Belgium is right now outside the democratic sphere. So let's have a look at that, shall we? If it can be moved towards France, then France will get a resource from Belgium, I believe. Now there's a -2 to France. Belgium is here. So if we play the -2 first, then Belgium would move down there. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference, is it? Because then we have the -3 to Germany. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ah! Hate when it jumps around like that. 8. This is a 9, and that's also a 9. So if I move it there, or if I move it -2 to France... Right, because if I moved it that way, we wouldn't be able to get Belgium in. But nobody has activated Belgium like that. So we can move it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then like this, which is the same as moving it like this and then like that. So Belgium ends up in the social democratic sphere, and it is now that much closer to making common cause with at least one of the allies. It's actually closer to the Commonwealth in terms of hexes than it is to France, but France gets the resource, which is nice for France. 12 resources, 7 production. Yeah, it has more resources than it can use right now, so it's not going to make a difference for the production at the moment. We have moved a minor country, and let's see what happens if the turn ends. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if Italy gets to do something. Italy gets to do something. I'll be danged. I did not expect that to happen, honestly. Okay, then. Italy's... What? I get to do something? Okay. Victory Parade. Where is it? We have an... This is from the annuals. One of the... Audience made me aware of these options that were published later on. And they're fun. Victory Parade! We prevailed against the best equipped army in the world, says Il Duce. And of course, Italy has conquered. Yeah, let's go. It's 1936. Play any option you normally could, and then receive political points as if you just played 0G. So, what should we do? Italy has held a grand victory parade showcasing its armed forces and celebrating recent successes before cheering crowds. The event was rich in symbolism, banners, formations, and speeches emphasizing national pride and renewed confidence. While critics question the economic cost of such displays, the regime presents the parade as proof that Italy's bold policies have borne fruit. For Rome, prestige is power, and power must be seen. Alright, so we will play any option as you normally would. We're going to play another coup cell, because Italy is doing coup cells. That's the latest thing. Alright, so Italy, that's 1 money, and how much did we bet? I think it was betting like 1 or something, 2 maybe. 2 points of its bid points, so 2 left. Alright, and then we're going to do another coup cell, because we can, which costs 5 money. Ouch. And the Allies have no idea where this coup cell is going to go, of course. But for our purposes, I'm going to put it in Yugoslavia. Not Spain. Huh. And that's probably because when if France decides to activate this, the chances of a civil war are pretty solid. The risk of civil war is pretty solid. And Yugoslavia is over here on the map. So it's between the democracies and the socialists. And of course, it's very hard to move towards the fascist camp because it's allied with the Soviets and the French. So this is one way of dealing with that. And Italy also receives bid points as if it played a 0G, which is 9. So we're going to have an 11 bid points there. Very fruitful. And the coup cell doesn't trigger any concerns internationally at all. But the victory parade apparently does. Bulgaria is a -1. It's lots of -1s here. Bulgaria, Turkey, Hungary is a +1 though. Okay, Bulgaria. -1. It's hard to read on this particular. Turkey -1. Turkey is negative to everyone except Germany right now, but it's only a 1-pointer, so it's not enough to actually move them yet for a while. Hungary +1. Hungary, of course, being fairly enthusiastic about its support for anything that the fascist camp is doing. I wonder if we should move Hungary or not. Haven't decided yet. Greece a -1, Poland -1. Yugoslavia -1, Portugal +1. Okay, so Greece -1. Poland was a -1, I think. Portugal a +1. And Spain a -1. So, which minor country do we activate with Italy? There isn't a whole lot of choice right now because, frankly, there is just so little activity. Like, we can't move them very far. Poland could be good to activate just to get rid of the +2 to France and the negatives too. But Italy cannot control Poland, so never mind. Okay. We don't want to mess with Turkey because +1 to the Soviets and to Germany is a good thing to have. Bulgaria -1 could be worth it just to get rid of the -1. Same thing with Greece. Austria, again, it's going to get Anschluss sooner or later, so it doesn't matter. We don't want to touch the Netherlands because -2 is... we want to have that build. Yeah, I think we'll just activate Bulgaria, because that way we get rid of the -1. Some diplomatic chats there between Italy and Bulgaria just to smooth things over. It's interesting that Italy has been so active with secret agents. It's not the Gestapo that's out there. What was the Italian secret service called under Lucia? I have no idea. But we know that there's lots of Italian spies doing work, dirty work across the continent. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to end the turn. And the turn ends, finally. The Commonwealth and China did not get to play. Of course, they didn't bet very much. The Commonwealth bet a single point. Didn't get to use it, so +2 bid points net because they get that as a consolation prize. And there we are. Gee, that took a long time, this one. We had a very eventful political turn this time. Let's get through the action phase 2 and the production phase before we end this broadcast from the war table, shall we? Let's see, who gains the initiative in this January-February turn? It is a 5 to the Axis, a 3 to the Allies. I think the Allies don't care about the initiative very much right now, so we'll flip this one over. There is a reroll. The Allies, either side, could burn a reroll, but nobody cares too much because the world is not, in fact, in flames. So the Axis will start, and we will roll weather for the Axis side. The Axis side will roll weather. It's for everyone, but... okay, a 2 I rolled on the weather, and last turn was November, December. There is no asterisk here, so no effect on the weather roll this time. We get a 2. winter in the Arctic Circle, winter in the Arctic, winter in temperate, Mediterranean is muddy, clear in subtropical and north monsoon, and we have one attack in China if there was a war, which there isn't. 3 steps for the impulse marker. Let's check. Okay, we should have done the reinforcement before we did the initiative. Doesn't really matter. Okay, the Commonwealth gets 2 transports. They're gonna need those. They need all the transports they can get. And we're gonna do like a pipeline placement for them as well eventually. We'll put these transports in London just for funsies. Or how about Liverpool, just to clean up the map a little bit. Big piles are annoying. We also get... Oh, look at that. It's jumped around again. Sorry about that. Don't know why it does that. I use my scroll wheel to zoom in and sometimes it just jumps. Ramillies and Resolution will come in for the Commonwealth. That's a battleship group. And we will have... The keel was laid down by Italy and France in January, February last year. And these are now in the construction pool. So they will need to pay the sum again to get these heavy surface groups onto the map. And I doubt they will do that immediately, but they will have to do it. Italy has to do it immediately because this thing should have been on the map in 15. I don't know why 5th edition worked like that. Like they print that the map, it should have been on the map already, but it's not. The Americans get a transport as well. East Coast, West Coast. I'll just put it... Oh, we have a transport on the West Coast. I guess I'll put it on the East Coast then, just to even things out. It really... Yeah, it's early. Okay, so that was the reinforcements on that spiral. I have 2 spirals, and I'm using both of them. There we go. There's a lot of Japanese reinforcements and little of everything else. So we'll have a Soviet army coming in. Given the German gear up, maybe we should put this army in Kiev. And then a whole bunch of Japanese stuff coming in. So this is a aircraft carrier group going to the construction pool. And it will have to be built so it comes in July, August 1939, which is a while from now. We also get a Marine Corps, yeah, it is a Corps in fact, and transport for the Japanese, which is going to end up in Tokyo, in fact. Japan can start transporting things again. Alright. So, first side's impulse is going to be the Axis. It's all combined because nobody is in fact at war. And Japan is going to transport the Marine Corps because it can. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wonder where that corps is going. Who knows? Could it be somewhere the Chinese want? Yes, it could be. Other than that, I don't know that there's a whole lot that Italy or Germany wants to do at the moment. They didn't get anything particularly interesting on the map. And the risk for wars anywhere at the moment are very small. Yeah, I guess that's it for the Axis side. Only Japan did something. That's okay. It's in the nature of things. Again, the Allies... I forgot the pipeline placement, didn't I? Yeah, resource transportation segment. Okay. Let's go. Britain certainly will want to have its convoy lines. That's what these guys are for. We still haven't reached Pretoria yet, but we will soon. And that's 2 resources right there to be sent over to the Empire, the Heartlands. That's life as the Commonwealth. It's just a lot of convoys. France, there isn't a whole lot of other stuff to do. The Soviets, are fine. Everything is fine. It's wintry and cold, and that doesn't really affect movement much, except for HQs. We can do this with the Soviets. Moving them out of Vladivostok, which means that Vladivostok can receive reinforcements when necessary. And that Japan should be on its toes, basically. 3 steps on the impulse track. 1, 2, 3. Second side. Second impulse for... Oh, sorry. Gee, I didn't check the... Yeah. Yep, that's why they give me a list in the sequence of supply and sequence of play. Absolutely. Yeah, I should check the chat more often, I admit. But here we are. All right, so the axes, we're just gonna land these guys here. This transport is now used. So yeah, now these guys, because they're Marines, they can just step to any hex, even if it's across waters, as long as there's a hex connection. So yeah, this Chinese mainland here is within reach of the Marines, which of course is why China has an army group here, because China knew this would happen. China might need to have an army group down here on Hainan as well. Speaking of which, let's do that. We have subtropical there. This would then be North Monsoon Zone, which is clear. Okay, good for that. So we'll just move this guy down there on the first impulse. All right. Was there anything the Italy and Germany wanted to do? I don't think so. Second Allied impulse, which means that we can move this guy over here to Hainan. And that's about it for China, really. Qingdao is very exposed, but China, it's whack-a-mole, and they can place their troops a little bit across the border, and there's always going to be a hole for the Japanese to punch through and invade. What Japan obviously wants is a port, which is Qingdao, or this port here, which is probably Xiamen, because then they can trace supply for their troops. They can trace supply, of course, as long as they dominate the ocean. They can trace supply from any coastal hex, but they can't advance inland without the port. So we will roll a d6 to see if the January-February turn ends. It's a short turn in terms of actions here because there is really not much 1, 2, 3 either side can or wants to do because it's all peaceful. So do we have anything left to do with Japanese? We want to move this guy, but can't be done until we have another transport or this transport has come home again. I guess this is a bit ominous for the Japanese. Question is if they want to move anything to counter that. And if so, what? At this stage, like, there's an obvious urge to want to punch through here when the time comes. The Chinese defenses are pretty solid along the line here. Japan needs more infantry. That's all there is to it. So, have the Axis done anything this impulse? Not really. I guess we could just pass and roll a d6 and it ends on a 3. So it ended. There we go. Which means that because Axis got one more impulse than the Allies, the initiative track is affected. Alright, let's have a look. What is the next step here? Next step! Sorry, there we go. Partisan phase. D6. Any partisans anywhere. Only gonna affect Japan, really. It's a 1. Partisans. Greece, Spain, Finland, France, Yugoslavia, Malaya, US, or India. No, nothing. We don't have any convoy attacks. We don't have any coups. US entry will only happen once there's an actual war with a democracy. Production phase, then. So, the US gets 5 money, up to +2. Is there anything mandatory to build? Not there. May, June 38th, so not yet. I mean, we could build this one because they were gonna need some destroyer groups, aren't they? So there we go. That's $4 minus 2. They have 5 now, so in income, the Americans do. The US now built a ship. All right, the Commonwealth. 7 money. Anything mandatory at the moment? Nope. We will build another transport. It's a good old tradition here. 3 money left. All the transports must be built. Collect them all. This is Pokemon. The Commonwealth style. So, because we're going to have more transports coming in here so they can get all their... Okay, France gets 7 money, so it's +3. And France will have to hold an election next turn, which means that it doesn't have to spend money on an actual option yet for a while. If it doesn't succeed to hold an election next turn, it's going to have to keep trying until it actually held an election, which is like the French Doom. So, how much? I think we're going to build an infantry with France, honestly, because we don't trust the Germans, do we, in France? Where do we have it? There we go. 10 more infantry available to build. A 4-3. Not too shabby. See, the military expenditure is really coming in handy there. Germany has now a production of 12 per turn. And we'll be using it relentlessly, I think. Okay. Germany needs everything. Honestly, we're gonna get a paratrooper in here. Do we have air transports for these lads? I know we have 1. Okay, so an air transport it will have to be. So we have all the paras supplied with that. That's 5 money, isn't it? Air transport. Yep, 5 money. I'll probably hold on to the rest of the money, honestly, because there's a lot of stuff that Germany wants to do politically as well. It's going to be a pretty busy 1937, I predict. Italy has -5 money, gets 4 per turn, has -1 money, and will therefore not produce anything unless it absolutely has to, which it does not there. Does it have to do this one? Yes, it does. Okay, dang it. That's what I said, and I just forgot about it immediately, didn't I? Heavy surface group immediately out there. It is the Giulio Cesare and Conti de Cavour. And that is $5, so now Italy is at -6. Someone should play the credit card and really troll Italy. Italy now has built 1 ship. Alright, the Soviets earn 4 per turn. We end up at 10 money. Nobody's going to be surprised to hear that the Soviets will build an infantry. That has almost never happened in Soviet history ever. And this infantry is a 3-2, which is pretty useless. Should we build 2 infantry because we have 7 money? Why don't we build 2 infantry because we have 7 money? Soviets... Yes, we can build 2 infantry. Let's do it. And that's a 6-3, which is much better than the 3-2. Speed bumps. At least the 3-2 is a speed bump. But it's also good to lose. When you have to lose an infantry, it's better to lose a 3 than something more precious. Okay, we have... November, December 39. That's a while, so no mandatory builds for Japan there. 42, 39, nothing there either. Okay, good. Japan wants infantry, like all the infantry yesterday. Japan has a production currently of 8, so that's +2. You know what? We're just gonna save that money. No, we're gonna build an infantry. We're gonna go into deficit. Yes. So not an aircraft this time. We're going to build an infantry. Only a single infantry for Japan. Which means that Japan is going to go into slight deficit. But seriously, we need all the infantry right now. A 3-2. That is probably not the prime of the Imperial Japanese Army. But again, if you have to take losses in China, you might as well use a 3 to do it with. And the Chinese have now 1 money and therefore not building anything. Last turn, they must have built an infantry, if I recall correctly. Yeah, they did. Alright, so that is that. Production. Return to base face. There is this ship here, which returns to base, and final reorganization phase like that, and that's basically it. Alright, my friends, here we are. We are at the end of January, February 1936. That was a very busy political turn. All sorts of countries got a chance to gear up, and basically there's a standoff in the world between the major powers because of the gear-ups. Next turn, France will have to hold an election. Don't know if they'll be able to because they are out of bid points, but they'll have to try at least. Or maybe they'll just bid low. I don't know. They do need to get rid of that election. This is a golden opportunity for the Axis to build a... Yeah, they should have built a coup cell in Spain and then activated just to get rid of the French coup cell. But that's $10. That's a lot of money right now. It's entirely possible that Spain will go without a civil war this time, because it's completely neutral, and I don't know that anyone cares too much about. Alright, thank you so much, Commando. I love your comments, even if I don't comment on them immediately. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. We will be here. We will follow the developments in the war room turn by turn until the bitter end, possibly. Who knows? I predict no wars in I don't predict no wars in 1937, because I know there is a particular bridge incident that might just happen, or might not happen. Japan can't wait too long to get going in China. I don't predict any major wars in 1937, but I do predict more political activity. So with that, my friends, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you guys in a week when March and April 1937 comes along. See you then. And don't forget to follow and subscribe and click the bell and do all the things that you have to do because your support is very much, hey, Snowy Silver, very much appreciated.